You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Kersti Moss, professional dog trainer from Dog Training Camp USA in Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome, Kersti.
Hey, Polly. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being back on the podcast. I wanted to have you on the podcast again to give all of the listeners tips on how to keep your dog occupied while we're all working at home.
Awesome. Yeah, this is something new that we're all kind of going through and figuring out what's the best thing to do. So there's so much change happening, and our dogs thrive on routine. So when you throw that routine, and people too, we all thrive on routine. But when dogs can't go to their daycares anymore, or their daytime naps while we're gone are interrupted with us being home, it's important to just try to stick with routine as best as you can, or even if that's new, stick with kind of doing the same things throughout the day so your dog learns what to expect. So, I mean, if you're working from home before you work, definitely take your dog for a walk or go in your backyard and play fetch if you can. If you live in kind of like a really close-knit area, even just doing a quick walk outside to potty and then playing some games inside. You could play hide and seek. Some dogs who are super food motivated, what I do, so I've got 2 beagles, and when I need them to be busy, I actually take their food and I just kind of broadcast it into the yard. So I throw it out and they use their little noses and search for their kibble, and it takes them a really long time, but it's also kind of enrichment for them because they're having to hunt and find their food. So if you've got a dog, especially one that gets into everything when you're not around, if they love food, try that. That's a really big way to keep them busy. And if you can't do that outside, there are also lots of slow feeder bowls or like doggy puzzle toys. The key with the puzzle toys, I think sometimes people get them and they mistake them for like something that is supposed to entertain their dog. But puzzle toys are really more interactive for you and your dog, so you can be there to interrupt them if they start chewing it or if they get destructive. So just think, if you do try the puzzle toys for their food, to supervise when they have them. But that kind of will slow them down. Oh, I kind of got sidetracked. So hide and seek, you can do the throw their food out to find it. You could also hide treats throughout the house and make it a game of go find it. And if you're doing hide and seek with food, start really close and small so your dog understands the game. Like maybe you hide a biscuit behind the couch and you're really close to the couch. And so you can kind of direct your dog on where to go find it. And as they're looking for it, you can say, go find it, so they learn what the game is. And then you gradually add on difficulty as your dog picks it up. So some dogs, might not get it. It might take them a long time, and some dogs are going to pick it up in a flash. So just kind of get to know your dog and observe them as you play and see what works best for them. And if food isn't really your thing or your dog's thing, you can do it with toys. And you can also do it with the kids. So you can start playing hide and seek with the kids and the dog, where one person stands with the dog and the other person hides. And kind of the same thing that you would be doing with food. You want to start with making it really easy and then gradually making it harder. And that's just a good way to keep everybody engaged and kind of having some fun. And then, so I get really excited about hide and seek because your dog is going to start to learn. If you have multiple people in the family and you say, go find Polly or go find Kersti, is that it teaches your dog each person's name in the family if you're playing it together. So you can say, go find Polly or go find Jason or whoever it is. And as you start to play that more, your dog is going to learn, oh, I know who that person is. And so eventually later on in life, you can say, go find Jason, and your dog will go to that person in the house. So that's with consistency, but that's a fun game to play. You can also use this downtime you have if you're not busy. Take some time throughout the day and teach your dog some tricks. So if you're home and you're looking for something to do, a book I got a really long time ago is called 101 Dog Tricks. And it just has like creative things you can teach your dog, how to pick up things, how to teach your dog to touch specific objects. A long time ago, well, actually probably about 10 years ago, my dog was really young and I broke my leg and she was a puppy. So I had that book and I learned to teach her how to touch a little Post-it note. So when she touched the Post-it note, I could actually move it to different objects and name it like, go turn off the light, and I would put the Post-it note on my light switch. So she actually learned how to turn off the light for me, and it helped because my leg was broken, so I didn't have to get up. But then I started to get really creative because I was bedridden, and I had a little keyboard, so I taught her to go play the piano, and I would just put the Post-it note on the piano, and she would go and, just stomp on the piano, but it would be amazing.
So what kind of dog was it?
She's a German Shepherd Border Collie mix. And she's actually 11 now. And she can still do those things. But I think that book kind of inspired me to learn more about how my dog interacted with me, because I realized she is just a sponge. So once she learned that I was asking something of her, she was just like, what's next? So she was a really easy dog to teach tricks to, because she could communicate that clearly with. Some of my other dogs aren't that motivated, but that's not that important. I think it's more important to know like what your dog is like. So if you have just a super smart dog that you think is calculating or watches your every move, that's a really good trick dog. But yeah, 101 dog tricks, or Google, a simple Google search or YouTube, how to teach different tricks is a fun way to do things or to find new things to do with your dog.
Yeah, I know there's on Bark and Wag's Facebook and Instagram, I posted a picture of this dog passed out and it says, that's the 6th walk today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So we're kind of hoping that Maddie, our fat lab, kind of loses some weight, but so far no avail. So, well, those are all great tips. And it's also interesting that you say that when you have a dog that is constantly watching, and, that is our lab. I mean, she constantly watches the girls, watches me. Yeah. So that might be something why we're inside, that we, Google some tricks to try to teach them.
Well, because that watching is like, what do you want me to do next? And some dogs, it's just this drive to do something. And some dogs, it becomes obsessive, or they start to create their own games because they have all this attention and drive and nobody's giving it any direction. But, it's not always a problem. It's just something that, if you see that personality trait in your dog, you might have a lot of fun together teaching them new stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's great. Those are great tips.
One more thing that's super important, I think, as we get into our new normal at home, because we'll probably be here for a while, it is important to make sure that your dog still gets some downtime or some alone time, so that they don't learn to constantly be with you. Because we are, as humans, we are naturally stressed out right now, and we take comfort with our dogs, which is fine. That's why we have each other. But we also don't want to teach our dogs how to, like, the need to constantly be with us, because when we do go back to work, that could create some other issues down the road. So it is important to just have a healthy respect for time, and spend this extra time with your dog, yes, and enjoy it, but also make a point to give them some nap time, some downtime, so they still have that healthy understanding of your space and their space, and they don't become overly attached, because that's
great.
That's really important.
I should probably have you back on to discuss when all of this is lifted and we do go back to work, on how you start to wean your dog from seeing you all day.
Yeah. I'd love to come back, or sooner, if anybody has any questions, as you get into your routine of, okay, something new is coming up now, I would be happy to come back and answer any
great.
questions.
I'll put that any questions, we'll have you back for any of the listener questions. I know one thing that has not changed in our house is that everyone wakes me up at 5 a.m. to be fed.
Yeah.
So, obviously, they did not get the memo.
Yes, they will be really upset if that changes.
So, Kersti, thank you for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.